Can you go for the
Yes.
slide? So my name is Stephanie Yee, and I work in the Division of Information Systems. I've been working here approximately 14 years. So for Research.gov and Fastlane, there's multiple project managers, so Bill and I are two of those project managers.
Hi, and I'm Bill Dawes. I've been with NSF for about 4 years now, and my primary focus has been working on Research.gov.
So for today's agenda, just to give you a preview of what we'll be discussing, so we'll be giving you some updates, tips, and enhancements of some of the, oh, there's a question. Yes? Oh. Is this better? Okay. Oh, thank you, thank you. All right, so to give you a preview of the agenda that we're having today, it's going to be broken into basically two halves. The first half is I'm going to talk about the updates and tips and enhancements to some of their current functionality in Research.gov. And then I'm going to turn it over to Bill to talk about PSM, the proposal submission piece in Research.gov. So first, we're going to talk about NSF public access. So NSF has a public access policy where PIs are required to deposit their jury conference papers and journal articles into our repository. This is linked, very well integrated with our project reporting. So when you are filling out your annual or final report in the products tab, this is one of those products, and that workflow will help you deposit your publication and meet that requirement. So this rolled out in January 2016, so any proposals submitted on or after that date, any awards that come from those proposals are subject to this mandate. So it's been in production about 3 years, and we've had over 15,000 deposits, so we consider this pretty successful. However, we have found some bumps in the road, especially around the format that we require, which is a PDFA format. So what's happening right now is when you make a deposit in our repository, it's looking for a PDF extension, but when you upload it, we're actually looking for a PDFA compliant file, which is an archivable format where the fonts are embedded in the file. So this is really for us to be able to have long-term preservation of the file, and it's much better for us to keep. However, a lot of people don't know what it is, and the error message is not helpful. So as of October of this year, we changed the error message to provide a link to the PIs to be able to find out what is a PDFA, and also we created a new guide that gives you a step-by-step instruction on how to convert a PDFA file a PDF to a PDFA file. It also includes steps on how to convert a Word document to a PDFA compliant file. There's also FAQs about using other third-party tools to convert. I have some listed here. Adobe Acrobat, DocuPub are some examples. My personal favorite is Acrobat Adobe Pro. There's a very useful Save As Other feature where you can convert the file in PDFA version. I want to remind people that not only is the final printed version of the article acceptable, but also the finally accepted manuscript. So this is something the PI should have in their possession. It doesn't have all the nice, publication page numbers and logos, but the content is acceptable. One new suggestion that I have for people to manage your publications is to really work with your university's librarian. They're actually a very useful resource in terms of managing your deposits. They often are very knowledgeable about the public access requirements per agency, so they would know the differences between NIH versus NSF. So I really encourage you to reach out to that staff. They're probably very, very excited to help manage your publications. All right, the second tip I want to let everyone know is that deposits can happen even after the award is closed. So I mentioned that we have 15,000 deposits. Well, 12,000 of those are related to awards that are under the public mandate, but 3,000 of those are for people who wants to continue making deposits for awards that are closed. So for example, if your award was 10 years ago, you have an article that you want to take credit for that NSF work, you can go into research.gov, find that award, and upload the deposit and that will automatically, the new article will show up in our NSF.gov award search. All right, next. All right, so this one is very important. So when we first designed the public access repository, the association of the article to the award is a final action. We did not anticipate at the time that people would make a mistake during this process. So right now, it is not possible, if you associate a publication to an award, to remove that association after the fact. So what is happening is people are entering the article more than once. They're entering the wrong article. And those things are not reversible. So I just wanted to let everyone know that it's a manual process to disassociate with that. Our repository is actually not hosted at NSF. It is a repository hosted by DOE, the Department of Energy. So there's a lot of touch points where we have to remove that association. So it could take up to 5 to 7 business days to get a publication removed from an award. This is important because if you have an overdue project report, this 5 to 7 days could be pretty critical. We will be looking into building a removal feature in our application, but it's not going to be available anytime soon. So the second point I want to bring up is we are finding that project reports are being rejected due to the publications that are associated with the award. And the number one reason that I see a project report being rejected is because the publication does not acknowledge NSF funding. So in most articles, there's a little section that says, thank you for funding from XYZ. NSF is not listed there, and that's the number one reason why it's rejected. So it's just a tip for PIs. If NSF is not listed there, don't upload it and don't go down this path. Another reason a publication or a project report would be rejected, it's not as frequent, but I just want to let you know that sometimes if a publication is not within the performance period, so for example, you're in year 3 and your publication was year 1, I have seen cases where the PO would reject that. So it's not, your mileage will vary, so I would just double check with your PO if it's not quite within that performance period. Okay. Any questions on public access before I move on to account management? Okay. No. All right. So for account management, we rolled out in March our new account management system. So one thing that you may have noticed as administrators is that when you are looking at the users associated with your organization, you probably see a lot of people that no longer work there, and there's no way to remove them. So as of October of this year, we now implemented a functionality that the administrators can now remove people who have not migrated to the new system. So these are more likely people who have retired or they have left, academia. You can now remove them and clean up your user list. Ongoing and coming soon, so NSF is still continuing to reconcile duplicate accounts. So basically, when you log in and you have an email address associated with more than one NSF ID, you're getting those warnings. We are continuing to troubleshoot those. When this rolled out in March, our turnaround times for that was pretty long, but now we're pretty quick about doing that. So if you have an error message about duplicate accounts, please contact IT Hub Central to get that resolved. If you have a deadline that is coming up, please call. Do not email. Call and tell the technician the due date of your proposal. That is very important because of all the volume that we have to prioritize by the due date. So someone who has a proposal due in next week will be prioritized over someone that has a proposal due in a month. So just make sure you give that date. If no date is given, then probably be put at the bottom. All right. Also, starting this fall, NSF is going to start reaching out to people who are using group email aliases as their individual email accounts. So this is, SROs at XYZ University. We don't want group aliases as part of your individual account. So we'll be contacting those users to start cleaning up that access. You still are able to use group aliases on your organizational email. and that should work for most of the notifications that you get. Any questions about account management? All right, you guys are awesome. All right, so the next and last thing I'm going to talk about is the panelist meeting availability requests. So NSF, as you know, hosts panelists we host around 20 to 22,000 panelists a year. So as you can imagine, that's quite a lot of people to manage. So one of the tools that we are now offering to our internal staff is the ability to reach out to potential reviewers and ask them what dates they are available and how they can participate, whether or not it's virtually or in person. And if anyone's ever used Doodle, it's similar to that, where you can indicate basically the days you're available, and then the NSF staff will take all that input and then schedule the meeting. So what you need to know is that this functionality is rolling out in December. However, this is at the discretion of the program office. So if they don't want to use this, they don't have to. So you or your colleagues at your university may start getting these in December, and the takeaway is it is not spam. And then I include a couple of screenshots of what it will look like. So basically, an email will be generated with a unique URL, and you'll be taken to a page in research.gov where you would enter all this information. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, and I'll just cut it over to Bill for proposal submission.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill. And so I'm going to go through our proposal submission interface in research.gov. I'm going to give a few highlights. Jeremy already showed this slide here, but just to reiterate, the reason why we're doing this, there's a few reasons, but one of the main reasons is to reduce the administrative burden that's on everyone in this room as well as our internal staff. So we've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of usability testing. We've gone out to different conferences and shown all the features and taken feedback. We also had that preview from February to April. We tweaked a lot during that preview before rolling it out for submission, and we are continually updating. So any feedback you have, please either share today or email us with your feedback. We are running an agile process, and we're trying to make it as usable and as easy for everyone to use. Some of the other highlights, the availability is one that we're really working on. That way, if, I guess let's see, how many people have used Fastlane before? All right, good, everybody's awake. So how many people have used the new research.gov interface for submitting a proposal? Okay, so a lot fewer. So since everyone in this room raised their hand about Fastlane, you probably notice or get updates and see that Fastlane goes down almost every single weekend for maintenance. And that's something that we really want to get away from. The internet does not stop every weekend, and neither does work and what people are trying to do. So one of our big goals on the IT side has been able to do upgrades and do what Google, Amazon, Netflix, everyone now is just upgrading and you never notice. So we've actually done 2 upgrades now on a Friday afternoon while people are working in the system. So that 5th bullet is something I wanted to share, that in the future, one of the big things we're going for is no downtime, so that everyone will be able to work, and if you need to work on a Sunday night, you don't have to worry whether or not Fastlane is up or down. So why did we pick some of the improvements? Well, so we had this survey go out in 2015, and as a heads up, there's gonna be another survey around some research.gov stuff that goes out next year, probably. If you wanna be involved in that, we'll have some info at the end of the slides. But in 2015, we went out to the community and we had over 16,000 responses to this survey. And the number one thing for PIs and administrators was to expand the compliance checking. So we really took that to heart. We went internally, and program officers internally also agreed they hated doing an RWR for something like a formatting problem or a margin violation. And so we tried to find all the pain points in the compliance checking. Like if somebody didn't upload a data management plan, they really didn't like getting an RWR because they thought they didn't need one. So we started rolling this out in Fastlane a few years ago, where we just did the required sections. And then Research.gov, we started upping all the compliance checks. So we took what was in that PAPG, which everyone should read every night before going to bed, and tried to implement that. And we do admit that we went really hard and extreme in the beginning. We made everything a hard stop error. You couldn't upload, you couldn't submit. Fastlane doesn't do that. We know that people are violating some of the font and different things. So we are relaxing that a little bit for the time being to give more time to get accommodated. So there are warnings that will show up. I know the warnings can drive some people crazy. So we are trying to tweak that compliance checker, and it's one of the things that if you have an issue that you think shouldn't be an error warning, please contact the help desk, let us know, shoot me an email. We're trying to get better, and that's also why Fastlane is still there. We didn't make a hard cutover. Yes, we have a question right here. Sorry, return without review. So that's so like our engineering directorate is very big on following all the formatting rules. So for a very long time, they would have people with rulers measuring margins and measuring to make sure there were only 6 lines per inch. So that's one of the areas we're trying to reduce administrative burden, is we don't want government tax dollars going to people holding up rulers to the margins. But we also don't want a proposal getting returned without review because that margin was done. So anyways, that's number one. The number 2 suggestion was data pre-population. So that's why we implemented this in a whole new technology and in Research.gov, is after we roll things out, we turn off Fastlane, we're gonna start pre-populating a lot of information. So things like current and pending support, we'll bring in the current and pending support that we know you already have from NSF. And that's also why that account modernization was incredibly important, and why we're trying to force everyone to have a single identity, is because having that enables us to now take the data that we know about you and start pre-populating the proposals. So as I said, some of the key updates we've done recently, we tweaked our compliance checker a lot. We also increased our support for LaTeX. So can I get a show of hands of people who have experience with LaTeX or submitting proposals with LaTeX? Is anybody? We got 1, 2. So if you guys want to see me after class, we are trying to improve this. We did an initial rollout. We know that it's not perfect, but one of the things we want to do is make a LaTeX template that could be downloaded. Some universities, I know MIT has one on their site, have something for an NSF template. But if you have anybody in your faculty or in your administration who would like to help us make an NSF LaTeX template, I would really like to meet you and talk to you. The collaborators and other affiliates was something we knew was very painful just to get a generic error, so we've made it more specific about what cell in the Excel file has an issue. And then we embedded a lot of video scripts into it, so it's kind of a learn as you go, and I'll show that when we do the demo. And the other big one, so one of the big requests we got in the submitted and in-progress proposals was to add the PI name to those tables. So I'll show that we added that too. So that's something we hear the feedback, and we're trying to make the product better. So Jeremy already showed a lot of the future things. The next big thing to look for after the PAPG updates in January will be the collaborative proposals with subawards. So look for that in the spring next year. So I'm actually going to talk about some of these FAQs as we go through the demo. This slide, I reference it on your little thumb drive you got, but this has a lot of links out to help. It also has links to things like our ERA form at the bottom. So we are going to be demoing some of the collaborative features and options and doing surveys to make that better. So if you participate in this ERA forum, that's the place that we really get our feedback. So please sign up for it. Please attend. It's a webinar. It normally lasts about an hour, but it's really one of the ways we're trying to get as much input as possible to make the system usable. Do we have a question?
Oh, I just wanted to highlight, the very first bullet is our listserv. I highly encourage you to subscribe to it. It basically gives you emails whenever we have a large release coming and highlights our changes, so it's very informative. So share with your friends.
Yeah, we try as much as possible not to spam people, so we do minimize the things to try to make them concise and important. And also another PSA with links and emails, just make sure you validate if it is a research.gov link. We will send that Please don't click on anything that does not actually say research.gov when you hover over the link. All right, so let's jump over to our demonstration. If everyone can just bear with me for a minute. I'm gonna have to log in. And let's all keep our fingers crossed that it's up and running. Try that out. All right, so first I'm gonna log in as Ricky Researcher, our PI. So I went directly to the proposal preparation interface. When you hop in here, you have this little warning. We want to make sure that everybody knows what's possible in research.gov versus working in Fastlane. So you'll see this little hover over. As we roll out new features, oh, that didn't work. We have this release timeline. So Jeremy showed kind of the PowerPoint version. This is the live version. So if you're wondering whether or not a certain form or something that's required in the solicitation is available, just click that link on this first screen and then scroll down and look. So you can see we don't have withdrawal yet. We're not doing any of the rapid, eager fellowships. Those kind of things cannot be done. So this will be updated as we release. And it's a good little quick reference to see if there's a certain form or single copy document that might be needed. All right, so let's jump in here. So one of the biggest, sorry. Well, I'm going to reload the page. Okay. One of the biggest questions that we get is, when are you going to let administrators create a proposal? So I'm going to show the quick wizard and then how to give access immediately to an administrator to then view and edit an in-progress proposal. So as I said, I'm logged in as a Richard Researcher. I'll click Prepare Proposal. Actually, let me go back. Do you want to show, when I mentioned the videos, see here, they're about 2 to 3 minutes. There's also a lot of hover over help that's built in and links out to NSF.gov, to the PAPG. So hopefully it's very intuitive and it's easy to find the questions that you might have. So this is our list of active funding opportunities. This is a test, so there's a lot of random things in here. So let's just filter. Does anyone have a deadline that's coming up that they're considering applying to research.gov? Is it all right if I just pick applied mathematics? Is it all right? That's it?
8069.
Oh, 80.
Oh, no.
Can I do this one? So I just wanted to show that when you're looking for something, if you remember part of the name or all of the name, there is a lot of use in our filter. It updates as you go, so I can narrow it down pretty quickly. You can expand the number shown, and then if there's more than one page, you can browse through it. We've tried to make it very easy to find what you're looking for if you know the number also, so that's 1271. You can also filter down by the number very quickly. We are trying to filter this list. As I said before, I do apologize if we miss one. We try very hard as the solicitations are getting cleared to keep up with that and exclude any that are not possible. So I'll click next. So this one, it automatically populates the program that you apply to if there are multiple. So actually I'll show that real quick too. You then get an option. Oh, that's our test one, never mind. That was a really bad example, I'm sorry guys. Oh man, why'd they put in all this stuff? All right, so here's 19-1. So if you have multiple options, you'll get drop downs with all of the programs that you can possibly apply to. And that one is not populated either. Please trust me that it works. I guess that's the problem with demoing in our development environment. Everything they're getting ready right now for our January PAPG update. So on the right-hand side, if there are multiple, you'll select it, it'll move over to the right. The one at the top is the #1 priority, and then you can rank them as you select, because you can select multiple programs to submit to. So then you go to proposal type. Right now, we only have researched proposals, so everything else is grayed out. This is something that in the future, as these are enabled, it'll be filtered by the solicitation. So if you pick a certain solicitation and it only accepts research proposals, you still won't be able to select any of the other ones. If it's a conference proposal, only conference proposals will be available. That way, the rules that are enforced in the compliance checking are based on these different questions. So everything is very dynamic. Same with full proposal. We don't support letters of intent or preliminary proposals yet. And this is something that going forward, if you're going for something that is a preliminary proposal, it will only have that option here. And then same with collaboratives. So right now we don't support collaboratives with subawards or separately submitted collaboratives. When we do roll those out, these questions will be enabled. There's some hover over help, but if you have to have a subaward, you'll select this button here. If you're doing a separately submitted collaborative, you would select this, and then it will ask you if you're the lead or non-lead on that proposal. So then I just put in my title, and I prepare a proposal. So now all the questions that were asked in that wizard then dynamically create your proposal experience here, and it shows the required sections as well as the optional sections for those proposals. So as you heard yesterday, certain things like raise require an extra document to be uploaded. So when we implement that, that will then be a required section of that proposal showing up in the top. And you'll see on this forms page, so we had a lot of the information we just typed in. If I need to edit the title, I can just quickly do that. I can also select my due date here. So right now I don't have one. Looks like this has a due date type of a window. So I can go here, pick the December 3rd window. If there are multiple deadlines, all the ones in the future will be here. If it is passed, there will actually be an error here saying the deadline is passed. Going down, we have a lot of actions on the left. So if I want to grant my SPO or AOR access, click here. It first shows me all the errors with the proposal. I've done nothing, so there's a lot of errors. And then I can do, so I'll do edit, and there's also the allow proposal submission AOR only to submit. So I'm just gonna save that. I'm not gonna demo anything else in there. And then I'm gonna hop over, let's try Internet Explorer. That's probably a good thing to do. Oops. So I'm gonna log in as an SPO and find that proposal. So just bear with me for 1 second. All right, so when I log in as an administrator, I will not have the ability to create a proposal, but I will be able to look at all the in progress as well as all the submitted proposals. Sorry, guys. Should I go over to the integration site? Sorry, let me try Firefox. We were having some issues in our development environment before the demo, so of course it's the one time that there's a lot of people and we're being webcast here. So let me. Okay. So as I said, you'll see the in-progress proposals as well as submitted proposals. So when I select in progress, I'll see all the different PIs in my institution, all the different titles. I can filter, sort by PI name or by due date if I'm looking for ones that are due sooner than others. So I got Richard Researcher here. I can also start typing in his name and it will filter down. Interesting, it's only last name. I'm gonna make a note to myself, that's a bug. So let me do the grants conference test. I'll open it up. So one thing I want to note is if I went through that wizard very fast, it takes a PI about a minute to get a proposal started and grant the administrator access. And then now I can edit and I can do everything I need to do to upload or start editing that proposal. The other thing I might want to do is add another authorized user to the proposal to help edit and upload some of the sections. So go to Manage Personnel. In here, you can add a co-PI, you can add other senior personnel, and you can add other authorized users. So I'm just going to add someone really quick by their NSF ID. And then, so what you'll see is you'll see the confirmation. If the person has more than one organization affiliated with themselves, you'll have to select. So if they were also with University of Virginia, you would then have to pick the right drop down here. Yes.
Thank you. So a lot of the PIs that I work with prefer the temporary password with the proposal ID because they don't want to handle knowing everybody's NSF ID. They come from large departments and they have several people like postdocs and administrators adding into the proposal. So if there's a way to have like my team or something that they can save and check box it so that when they begin it, it's quicker than having to save a list of everybody's NSF IDs to add them in. Because this is a stumbling block for my PIs. They're going to Fastlane because then they can just email out the proposal ID and temporary password.
Yeah, so we our internal people have very strong opinions about the PIN and the sharing and how easy it is to get access. There are a lot of privacy concerns and a lot of issues with that. So I really like the idea of the saving my team and saving some trusted people. That is one idea that one of the things we've thought about is just always having a delegated person or several people that could always do actions on your behalf. So that's good it's really good feedback. Thank you. And for now, though, we do have the email, which we know most people don't know the NSF ID, but like Fastlane, we tried to also add the adding people by email address as well. So now that I've added this OAU, this person now has access to edit and do anything on the proposal except submit, because that's the only thing the AOR can do. I can also add any co-PIs or other senior personnel here. If I try to add someone that's already added to the proposal, it'll actually give me an error that that person's already been added to the proposal. So you can't add somebody multiple times. So I'm going to show some of the sections on the proposal next. So we have the cover sheet. The cover sheets, it's very similar to Fastlane, except it's a lot shorter. In Fastlane, it's very lengthy with multiple pages, but a lot of those questions that are on the cover sheet are asked in the wizard now in the first few pieces. So you have your start date, your duration. If you have multiple awardee organization options, they will be able to be selected here. There's also the primary place of performance is automatically populated to the awardee organization. You can add other federal agencies. A lot of the different checkboxes on the cover sheet, including in January, we'll have different international checkboxes that go into place. So I can save my cover sheet, and the first thing I get back, because I didn't change anything, is I'll get some warnings. So we've tried to add as much real-time feedback on those compliance checks as possible. So you see here we have duration of less than a month and request start date. So I can very quickly go, I'll just pick a start date, I'll add in a month, I'll go and save, and that clears out the warnings. If I remove that and save, now when I go back to my main proposal page, I'll get a very quick reference of the compliance of that section. So what we've tried to do here is we try to show when that was updated. We do have a thing in our backlog to add who it was updated by, because multiple people could be working on the proposal at the same time. And then we have the warnings. So the goal is to get green check marks. So I'm going to show the project summary next. So most of our things are uploads. So when we designed the system, we heard that most people really like working offline. They have their own ways to collaborate. They're using Google Docs, OneDrive, whatever is at their institution. They just want to come in, spend the minimal amount of time in the IT system, and upload everything they've worked on. So we got rid of the text boxes that Fastlane has for project summary. And now it's just an upload. So the thing with the upload, it is subject to all of the compliance checks that all the sections are subject to with the PAPG formatting. Plus, it automatically reads the PDF and looks for those 3 sections of overview, intellectual merit, and broader impacts. So it's very important that you have those, you have them spelled correctly, and that they're on their own individual line. So I'll just browse to my things. So I'm gonna upload one that doesn't work. Show you guys one. So this is one that did not have broader impacts. So you'll get the error back. Your file does not include the section heading broader impacts. So we've really tried to make that feedback something immediate. And I know that people have struggled. Fastlane accepting anything was kind of like a false sense of confidence, because if you didn't have your broader impacts and you would say upload it into the Fastlane section, you would get returned without review. So I'm gonna upload one that works, just to get us through the demo purposes. Actually, I'll do more than one page too. So there's a lot of different errors. So like the 1 page limit, that's another thing, is page limit. We have the margins. So let's just pass that one. So when you upload one that works, you get a little green check mark that says your file has been uploaded successfully. And when you go back to the main page, you now have a green check mark. Yay. And so when you have all green check marks in all of the required sections, you'll know that you've passed all the compliance checks and that you'll be okay to submit the proposal. And so our goal with the system is to get to a point where if you have all green check marks in the system, you'll never get returned without review, unless you're writing the proposal about overthrowing the government. What was the example yesterday? If it's way off the topic of science. We're not actually reading the content of the proposals, so we're not evaluating it for the intellectual merit or broader impacts. We're just looking for the technical things that we can. So you go through, you update your project description, your references cited. So the next area you might want to look at is your budget. And so here we have our budget. Not all of the lines in the budget are implemented yet because we haven't gotten to certain things like small business fees and other pieces. But for a full research, non-collaborative proposal, all of those are here. When we roll out the collaborative proposals with subawards, the additional line for subawards will then be rolled out here as well. So one thing we have here in the senior personnel, we have this manage button that I want to show. If you have to remove someone from the budget because they're not receiving any dollars or have any months associated, you just switch them back and forth here. But I'm going to add, actually I won't add anyone yet. So I can go through, I can add some graduate students, and I'll just save it now to show some of the errors. So you can see the error. I have a senior personnel that doesn't have any months or funds associated with them for at least 1 year. So that's this person that gave me that error. So I'm going to jump back here, and I forgot to mention one thing. So we do have the postdoctoral mentoring plan. So this is something that's required only if you have money for postdocs. So right now you'll see I can't do anything with it. It says conditionally required. So if I go into the budget and I add in a postdoc, so I add in one person for 1 month for $1, and I save my budget, and I go back here. Now I'll be able to upload my postdoctoral mentoring plan. And now this is something that if you do not upload one, you will not be able to submit your proposal because it is required since you had months and funds associated with postdocs. So I'll go back into the budget. So there are a few other things I want to show. There's one nice little trick. If you need more room in your budget, say screen size, the menu on the left that you can jump between, you just click hide, and it gives you a little more screen real estate. And eventually we'll have a lot of these advisories gone. We just wanted them to be up at the top so everybody knows whether or not they're working on something that can be submitted through research.gov. So I'll go in, I'll add in the months and funds for my researcher to clear that error. I'll save. So another thing that we try to improve on Fastlane is to add a year to the proposal. We just do it in line. So I can copy from that year, nothing that new or novel there, but now I can view the years side by side. So this is, you got year 1, year 2, you can add a 3rd year, and so I can start viewing my whole budget. Everything's dynamically totaled, so if I start adding up some money, it automatically goes up, it goes to the total budget at the top, and then that is automatically populated on the cover sheet, so you don't have to remember that number and put it in again. So I'm gonna stop there. Does anyone have any questions yet? Got a few. So we got a,
Hi, I have quite a few questions, but I'll just ask. Initially, you mentioned that current and pending will, if there's one already in your system, it will auto-populate.
that's something we're working on. It's not implemented yet.
Okay. So will that be editable?
Yes, so the idea is that it'll populate with all the possible things, and you'll choose which ones. That's something that, a plug for that ERA forum. Before we roll that out, we will definitely be showing multiple options and then having a survey of sorts to pick which options work and are most usable.
Okay, and when SPO AOR access is granted, do we get an email notice?
So we are having some issues with the email notifications from research.gov. In January and February, we're going to be correcting that. So you may not get an email when you are granted access to a proposal right now.
Okay, and recently, the two research.gov proposals we submitted both came up with it was a warning about the biosketch.
Okay.
It mentioned products and publications were not included. They were clearly included. The label was there on a separate line, so I'm not sure. We were able to submit, so it was not a hard stop.
Right. And that's the feedback you got from the program officer? Or how did you get the?
It was a message on research.gov.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And just a reminder, when you get warnings, warnings are not hard stops. Error messages are when you get a hard stop. Okay, but warnings are just calling your attention to something. Put yours as a mistake. Here you go.
So how many years can you add? Because I had my last proposal was for 10 years.
So you can add up to 15 years
Oh.
to the budget in here. That's the maximum allowed. Most, please read the solicitation though. If you have one that's 10 years, do 10 years, but most are 5-year maximums. We do allow up to 15 years though, because we anticipate that large facilities will need the maximum number of years.
And you will have the columns all right next to one another?
So when you add a year and you can't see it, you have to use these little scroll buttons. So I should have demoed that. So if I start adding a bunch of years, then you need to scroll left and right. And that's why we tried to make it, give a little more real estate so you can see as much as possible. But when you get to the maximum, also put in here, one of the features we're gonna roll out next year is to upload a template or an Excel file to do this. This is one area, we know that the template for Fastlane is used, and it might not be the best. So it is something that if you Google NSF budget template, a bunch of things show up that people have created. So this will be an area that if you have one that's good, that works for your institution, that you think you'd be willing to share and adopted by NSF as a template, please share it with me. And then as we go through and do our internal working groups to develop this template, we can take all the good things from all the different templates that we get.
Right, thank you.
Thanks. I think we have a.
So kind of piggybacking on that, the budget will not be limited. So if your solicitation is for just a 2-year program, it won't let you only add 2 years. You could have a PI that erroneously puts in 3 or 4.
So that's one of the enhancements that we're working on. We're going to get to a point where everything that's in the solicitation, that's a quantitative thing, like some of them say maximum budget of $400,000. We're not there yet. That is probably 2 to 3 years away. It'll probably be something that we do after we get through collaboratives and all the pieces to turn off the interface in Fastlane. But that is awesome feedback that we're on the right track with our ideas. Thank you.
I have a question. Can you submit a budget without senior personnel being named in the form, or is that going to give you an error?
So your scenario is if you
There is no
you have no
effort for
senior
a
personnel at all?
and there is no senior personnel name on the budget.
Sam, is that allowed to submit someone without any senior personnel?
So nobody's on your budget? No.
So no PIs, no co-PIs, no one at all? I don't think I've ever heard of
No,
that.
I'll talk to her
Okay.
offline. Yeah, we'll discuss her whole situation.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
It seems that research.gov is a huge improvement over Fastlane.
Thank you.
My question is there a possibility that you would go system to system? I work at Northwestern University. We use InfoEd. We
Mhm.
submit system to system for NIH, Department of Defense, NSF. We have a lot of funding with NSF. So I was just wondering if there
So
was ever
actually
a
see
possibility
the-
of going system to system.
There already is system to system, and we actually see the InfoEd people every 6 months at the Federal Demonstration Partnership and part of the joint design meetings we have, and they're there. So we do all of our system to system through grants.gov, but InfoEd should be integrated with them. Definitely grab my card and I can talk to you more during one of the breaks today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and we do try to keep all the options open because we know a lot of universities like the system-to-system interface. This is just supposed to replace the Fastlane human interface. Do we
Bill,
have it?
yes, I have a
Yes.
question here. When do you anticipate having all of the solicitations available through research.gov?
As soon as possible, but more than likely, it's going to be at least 2 to 3 years. We do have a pretty tight budget and we're working as fast as we can, but we do have to develop all the features.
Okay,
So-
I'll ask you offline about the only one I'm interested in then.
Okay.
Okay, I want to go back real quick to what she was talking about a proposal where you don't have any senior personnel listed in the budget. Because we do have PIs that do this, that we have the PI on the project, but the PI has chosen not to take any salary in order
Right.
to push the resources. So I think that's what she was going for. Are we going to be able to continue to do that and not get an error in the budget?
Yeah, so we don't throw an error, and Sam can definitely address any policy concerns
That's right.
later. But it is, so actually I can just remove the person from the budget here and show how it works. Oops, hold on, sorry guys.
Yeah, I believe she's saying what she'll
Sorry, it gave
describe
me a warning because it had money that's now gonna be deleted. But you can see, it. So you can take all the people off, it doesn't throw an error in the system. So I guess if the solicitation and the program officer are okay with that,
Right, because she's describing, I believe, putting them in the facilities, equipment, and other resources section. I lost who I was talking to. Was it you? Yeah. Is that what you're describing, putting them in the facilities, equipment, and other resources section? That's what she's saying, still describing what they're doing, but not
Okay.
describing a dollar amount on the budget. Yeah, so, and research.gov won't throw an error
right,
message.
it won't throw a system error on that.
Over here.
So I have a question about the whole system-to-system thing. So currently, if you submit system-to-system, it goes through grants.gov, in which you can't submit collaborative proposals?
Separately submitted collaborative proposals.
Right.
Mhm.
So moving forward, will that change, or will you have to use research.gov?
So we have been talking to grants.gov about expanding the use cases because we also have other things that grants.gov cannot support. They're going through their whole transformation project, and we've submitted our requirements to them to try to do that. But at least until they roll out that new thing that they're working on, you'll have to go through Fastlane or research.gov when we implement it.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe we'll do one more question, and then I do want to try to wrap up the demo, and then we can do more questions till we run out of time.
I just had a question on, kind of piggybacking on a previous question, that it'll be 2 to 3 years before you can do all the proposals. So would it be 2 to 3 years before kind of Fastlane is archived completely and
Right.
research.gov? So it's a
We,
couple years
we
off
will
before you're
implement all,
mandated.
we will make sure that all things can be submitted through research.gov before turning off Fastlane.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just gonna hop back into the demo real quick, and then we'll have a chance to do more questions until we run out of time. So one area I wanted to show was the senior personnel documents. So actually, this is a good thing to note. Even if someone is taken out of the budget, you're still required to upload all the senior personnel documents, which include BioSketch, current and pending support, and collaborators and other affiliations. So right now, BioSketch and current and pending support are just uploads. We don't have the same form that Fastlane has for current and pending support. It's just a PDF that you upload here, similar to the project summary and the other ones I showed. Actually, I'll upload it while we're here. So one thing we really tried to do too, to make the uploads a lot faster. That was something we got a lot of feedback that people really hated sitting there while Fastlane crunched away for a minute or 2 or 5 or 20. So collaborators and other affiliates is something else I want to show. This is a more complicated form. There are a lot of instructions. There's a lot of things driven by our general counsel's requirements for this document. So there's a link out to the template. There's an FAQ. There's some more info about conflicts and how it might pertain to you. We also have the video here because this is a very unique section with its template on how to upload. So there's a link out to the video. So what I'll do is I'm going to show what it looks like when it works. So if you have the Excel file, it'll show you a preview. So it's very important to make sure that all of the pieces were extracted out, because what we're doing is, we are taking each cell, we're reading it, we're storing it so that we can do our conflict things. So make sure you scroll down, check all the tables, check all the names, look for everything that was in the Excel file. And if you hit cancel, it won't actually be saved. So make sure you verify it, then upload. Okay, so this one actually had a warning that one or more of the cells could not be saved. So this is something to pay attention to these. That means that there was something weird in one of the cells that could not be saved, which means it also probably didn't show up when I was doing that preview. So it can be kind of tedious, but try to verify. Another way to verify too is after you've uploaded, you can look at the PDF. The PDF is actually generated from what was saved out of Excel. It wasn't just converted over. So this is another way. You can see a lot of that data didn't save to the database. So I need to go back and fix my example file before I demoed this in the afternoon. And this is another thing I want to highlight. With all the sections, after you've uploaded, you can always then go look at the PDF version. You can download. We try to minimize anything we do to the data. We want to stay true to whatever you upload is going to be what's seen by program officers and reviewers. So the next thing I'll show is the print proposal. So if you want to save the entire proposal off, this will go and it generates the cover sheet, generates all the pieces, and then concatenates it all together. So you can see it puts all the certifications, everything on here if you want to save off a copy while you're working. Since we don't have that much time, I'm going to jump over to my, I actually have an example one that I put together earlier.
Can I make a comment about the COA form? So as Bill showed you, when you upload, there were some warnings. Just looking at production support tickets, the #1 reason I see this scenario happening is if there is a foreign name with an accent or special character or a location that's in a foreign country with little, the little dots, if you remove those and just type in with your keyboard the letter that it closely resembles to, that usually fixes the problem. That's just a tip.
So I made this other proposal earlier, so we'd have one that we can look and see what it's like when it's compliant. So here you'll see on my screen now I have all green check marks. Every single section has been filled out. I go even into my senior personnel and double check. I can expand all if I want. It's a nice little collapse all if you want to view everyone, expand all if you want to scroll down the screen really quick and look for which one might have an error. There's also a link over to manage if I forgot to add somebody or I need to remove someone. But it looks like everything's good. So the last thing I would need to do, I do not grant myself access to submit this. sorry. Let me go back. I think this was my PI login. So let me log in. I will load up this proposal. So what I need to do now, so we'll just pretend this was part of the demo that I meant to do. I go in to my access here. It'll run all the compliance checks again. Everything's good. I need to check this box that says allow proposal submission AOR only. So I'll save that. And now when I hop back over, it's being this person, let me try to refresh my screen. I'll go back here, find that proposal again. So now I have initiate proposal submission. So when I click on that, I'm now brought into the submit proposal wizard. The first thing that'll happen is it'll rerun all the compliance checks. You can see it has green, says the proposal is ready for submission. If there are any warnings, those will be here. It is always good to read the warnings. It'll have all the base proposal information. It'll have the awardee organization. You can see all my PIs and co-PIs. Click next. Then I'll get to my certifications. You can put those in if you need to. And then you can sign and submit the proposal. I'm not, well, what could it hurt, right? So I can submit the proposal. Yep, it didn't work because it's our acceptance environment. But there you get a confirmation. When you go to your view submit a proposal screen, it would then show up here. And one thing to note is there's a proposal ID number. It'll say pending. That's because it's, at first, that's actually means it's copying and replicating the data from that submission out to our downstream systems. When it is fully done, then you'll get the proposal ID number that starts with the fiscal year and goes forward. And then after that, if you click on and download the PDF from here, it'll have the proposal ID number in the cover sheet, and that'll be the official proposal that was submitted to NSF that will be seen by the program officer, and then the version without the single copy documents will be seen by the reviewers. So I guess, do we have any more questions? And just so everyone knows, I will have a stack of business cards if you want to take one. I'm going to be hanging out all day, except if there's a really hard question, maybe I'll run away. But I'll have these here if you want to take them, and I'll be around for other stuff that we can't answer during the session.
So I have a question about any format compliance checking that may apply to the current and pending upload document.
Okay.
What compliance checking will there be on that?
So right now, it's very minimal. It is one of the areas, I'm just going to bring it up so I can show the screen. Right now, it's really just looking for the like the font types, sizes, that it's a PDF. In the future, we'll put in more things, but right now it's very minimal.
What kind of things are you anticipating including for that?
They're like looking for years, verifying that it's an actual NSF thing. If it is NSF, like I said before, we're trying to pre-populate a lot of it going forward. So I don't really know what the final version of this will look like, and it's something that we'll definitely be bringing out to the community for input. So please sign up for those things. One thing I do want to note, one of the bottom line says your document should not contain page numbers. This is because when we do that concatenation of the PDF, let me bring it up. We automatically put page numbers on the proposal for you. We also bookmark the full PDF as well. For those of you who might be reviewers, this was something we heard from reviewers is they really wanted to hop between the sections on the PDF. So let me open that up just to show that. So make sure all the margins are clear so we can put on all the different pieces. So so you see we stamp stuff at the top, like the PI name, the proposal number, and then we put in the page numbers at the bottom. And then it's bookmarked so you can hop between project summary, project description, all that kind of stuff. Do you have any other questions?
You mentioned a few times project summary, I'm assuming project description as well, that these headers need to be on a line by themselves.
Correct.
What about, for example, on the example you just had up there, our PIs use a numbering or lettering, for example, 1, introduction. Are
Yes.
those things that are going to kick back as well?
So we do have a small tolerance because we do know a lot of PIs will use like Roman numeral 1 or just say 1 or A or something. So there's a little buffer in there. It does have to be spelled correctly though.
Hi, the COA Excel template that is downloadable. Is there any problem with the PI reusing one from a previous proposal submission and it not, there could be a version error or something like that?
It depends on the version. So our version 1 is very different than our version 3.5, which is available. If you're talking about 3.1 to 3.5, that should work. But for research.gov, yes, if it's an older version, it's not going to work. And I think, I'm not sure if it was you that recommended putting the version number in the title. That's something we're looking to help alleviate that.
Yeah, and the goal was to reuse that template so that people wouldn't have to change it. It did take us a while to overcome some of the initial issues and get to a more stable version.
Okay, looks like we've reached the end. They're on break out there, so please join me in thanking Stephanie and Bill for walking us through research.gov.
Thank you all.
So you can continue now to the break, and then we will come
We
back
will
in
have
the
it.
open
Oh, just
session.
one
Go
thing.
ahead.
We will have a table. We'll be sitting out there, beyond the snacks and food tables
And you
throughout
do
the
this
day.
again, correct?
Yep,
You
we'll
do
have
this
another
again.
session in the afternoon. It's going to be very similar to this. So if you just have questions, feel free to find us, like at that table outside.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.